going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImacSports.
Instagram is also at ImacSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 195, and just a really big episode. A lot of big things going on right now as we move into the dog days of summer for the Major League Baseball season. It's another week with the top 15 power rankings. Also, college baseball has been awesome. And the NBA Finals this Thursday, finally here. Great matchup. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, college baseball has been awesome, depending on what team you're rooting for. It wasn't too awesome for my Gauchos as we lost in the regional to Oregon. We'll get into all the super regionals and our picks later on in the episode. But let's get on into our opener. And I'll let you go first because I believe you're talking some college ball here.
Yeah, this is going to be college softball. Really weird one here, but I wanted to highlight one game I saw, the only game I've watched this season. Florida, the Gators won yesterday 9-3 against Oklahoma, snapping the Sooners' 20-game tournament win streak. That's over 3 seasons of championships. Thanks to 2 homers by Florida shortstop Skylar Wallace, spelled the right way, of course. Unfortunately, Oklahoma won today. That knocks out Florida. It's going to be a Texas-Oklahoma championship. But that's something I'm going to take, to a team that's won 4 out of the last 5 championships, I believe, to finally snap that streak, and someone with the same name as me. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going in, I guess, the same genre of sport where there's someone pitching the ball and someone hitting the ball. I'm talking about Miguel Andujar and his an amazing stretch for him and to begin his A's career, specifically within this last week for the A's. He's went 9 for 21 with a homer and 7 RBIs. That's a 4.29 average. It's been something that we've been waiting for since spring training. We saw how good Andujar was in spring training. He was hitting the ball hard. I think he led our team in homers, and then he got hurt right at the end of spring training, and we're like, damn, this is going to suck not having this guy for the first couple of months of the season. But we knew once he came back, we were just hoping that he was going to be, to close to that same level of play, and he's been that same level of play over his first 33 at-bats in an A's uniform. It gives us another guy that we can rely on in the lineup. It's not just Toro, Lede, Rooker, Langoliers. Now we have another guy in there as well too. Geloff's potentially heating up as well too, as he hit a homer on Sunday against the Braves. It's just good to see that we are not the lineup that we had last year, where it's just Brent Rooker doing something and then Geloff later on in the season. We now have 4 or 5 guys that can beat you, which makes obviously the A's a whole lot more enjoyable to watch. With that being said, though, I don't think he's going to be our players of the week because there was some pretty crazy stuff that has happened within the last 7 days. So we'll get right into it. Skylar, who is your player of the week?
Yeah, of course, it's a shout out to our guy, Miggy Andujar. I had it in there just in case you didn't mention him. But of course, we're going to mention Miggy Andujar. But for real, it's Aaron Judge. I mean, he wins this week for absolutely terrorizing the Giants once again. 4 homers and 7 ribbies this week. 3 of those were in the Bay, a very tough place to hit. And he just struck as much fear as he possibly could into that team.
Yeah. Aaron Judge is the player of the week for me as well, too. 7 for 18, the 4 homers, like you said, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases as well, too, I think is pretty notable for him.
Sure.
And I saw an interesting stat that the Yes broadcast put up onto their TV or during the broadcast of one of the games in San Francisco. And it was comparisons for the most homers in Oracle Park this year. And it showed the homers and plate appearances. And I believe it was like Yastrzemski, Lamont Wade or somebody like that. And they both had like over 100 plate appearances. And then Aaron Judge with 3 homers and 8 at-bats. It ended up being like 3 homers and 12 plate appearances or whatever he ended up having in the rest of the series. But pretty crazy to see how good he's been. And I know he was looking forward to that series, considering that he was from the Bay Area and grew up a Giants fan as well, too. How about pitcher of the week?
I'm going to go with Max Fried to the Braves, keeping the Braves alive here through all the drama. And don't worry, we'll get to the Braves at some point today. But for Max Fried, it was 8-inning shutout. He did give up 7 hits, but 6 strikeouts and only 1 walk. And an age where guys walk a lot of other guys. So big for him. I wanted to shout out Jack Flaherty. Flirted with a no hitter in Fenway Park. Tigers have been pretty surprising.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see them on our top 15 power rankings. Yeah. I also went with a Tiger, not named Jack Flaherty. I went with the guy who's been ridiculously good this entire season, probably the best pitcher in all of the MLB. That's Tariq Skubal. In his 2 games started, he had 13 innings pitched, only 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 14 strikeouts. He's fun to watch, man. He's just a hard-throwing lefty that's got some insane stuff. But when you have those combinations, like, you're going to make it very difficult on hitters to have a good day against you. I mean, he's been doing that pretty much in every single outing this year except for 1 or 2. What about Rookie of the Week?
Yeah, again, another week, a lot of great rookie arms to choose from. And I do want to shout out Gavin Stone because I joked about him during the preview episode. Like, yeah, you could bet on him for Rookie of the Year, but he's just going to end up with a 5 ERA anyways. But no, he's been awesome. But this award's going to Ben Brown. He had 2 starts this week for the Cubbies, but I'm focused on that game in Milwaukee where he threw 7 no-hit innings and 10 strikeouts before getting pulled. Fortunately, ended up with the no dizzy there, but luckily for him, most people don't care about that anymore. Yeah, a couple other guys I do want to mention. Louis Eel, pitcher of the month for the Yankees. On the bump right now, too.
For the AL. He's on the bump right now. Hasn't given up a run yet. And his last start, he went 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 9 Ks, and only 2 walks. So he's been really good. And then a guy who the Astros have been hoping turns in some good outings, and he's starting to do that, is Spencer Arrighetti, who pitched 6 innings, 2 hits, 0 runs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts for the Stros this past week. Moving on to our top 15 power rankings. Do you have anybody that didn't make your list that you wanted to talk about or shout out or whatever?
Yeah, so the Rays are getting knocked back down after only 1 time on the rankings for me. And again, I mentioned it last week. I think Arizona is going to get it eventually. They've been playing much better. It's just not turning into that 7-game win streak they're looking for yet. Yeah, Arizona, not on my list, but definitely a team that I think could definitely be here in our next rankings in a couple of weeks. 2 teams that were on the rankings for me last time that I did not have making it this time are the Cubs, who did not have a good past couple of weeks. They are now hovering right around 500 after being, I think, like 7 or 8 games over 500 when we last did our rankings. And then the Houston Astros, who were 15 on my rankings because I was expecting them to kind of continue a solid week stretch that they had before our last rankings. Didn't do that. Fell down to, again, 7 or 8 games under 500. Now they're losing Christian Javier to Tommy John surgery. Had to drop him in both of my fantasy leagues, which kind of sucks. Or kind of sucks. It definitely sucks because I was expecting to bounce back here from him. But now he's gone, and the team that's looking for pitching is without another pitcher. So we'll see how they handle that. But they are not in my top 15 power rankings either. Number 15, Skyler, who'd you go with? Yeah, you mentioned them just a minute ago. It's the Tigers here. They were just on the outside last week, and they're going to take Tampa Bay's spot at the bottom here through all the BS, injuries, demotions, massive contracts, disappointment. They've still managed to do everything we've asked of them so far. They're right at 500, and they're trusting their starters and making a completely new lineup. That's our biggest concern the 2 weeks ago when we last did it. It's not going to happen this year for them, but they deserve the spot over Tampa Bay because the rotation is a really nasty weapon from Skubal down to Reese Olson. Yeah, number 15 rankings for me, their first appearance on the top 15 rankings. It's the St. Louis Cardinals, who are sitting at 28-30. They went 7-4 over the past 2 weeks. They got the veteran and rookie presences they were looking for, with Goldie having a 924 OPS and Mason Wynn having an OPS around 850. And they're getting some good starts from some of their veterans in Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, as well as just the constant production of Sonny Gray. The Cardinals find their way on to my power rankings for the first time this year. Number 14. 14, the Cubbies stay on the board, but they drop down 4 spots from 10 last time. A really rough stretch for the Cubs. I believe it's only 2 wins since the last time we talked about that. Maybe 3 if you count that Tuesday. But this is the downside of an entire team filled with rookies, outside of a few, of course, on big contracts. But I don't mind the rotation. It's just the lack of getting on base and bullpen is what makes me drop them down 4 spots.
I got the Tigers as my number 14 team up from unranked. I believe it is their first or maybe second time. I think I left them just off like earlier in the year. So this is probably the first time that they've been on it. Through 60 games, they're 30-30, 7-6 within the past 2 weeks. The best bat within that time has been Matt Vierling with 4 homers, 12 RBIs, and OPS north of 1,200. And they're pitching. Screwball and Clarity have been good all season. They were just as good over the past 2 weeks as we kind of already mentioned. And the Tigers find themselves at number 14 on my power rankings. Number 13.
Boston. Moving up a couple spots from last week. They're at 15. And, of course, they're also right at 500 like we always joke about. But they may not need to actually blow it up like so many predicted for this team. I just don't think they score enough runs to be a legit contender in the East right now.
Yeah. Number 13 for me is going to be where I slot the reigning champion Texas Rangers. They moved down 1 spot from 12 from our last rankings. They were 29-31, so just a couple games under 500 of this past 2 weeks. Still 5-7. Not too happy about that record. Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, both sub 700 OPS. Adolis Garcia sub 600 over these past 2 weeks. However, Corey Seager's come alive. That's a good thing for them. Over the past 2 weeks, he's got a 1,300 OPS with 7 homers and 12 RBIs. And their starting rotation has still been good, even through this rough stretch with Lorenzen, Heaney, Eovaldi, and Dunning. I think just as it's going right now, I'm more harsh to them than some other teams because I expected them to be better than what they are right now. So I think I got to show that in our rankings. Number 12.
Similar story here for me. I got the Rangers at 12. They're up a couple spots, but it's just too early to give up on Texas right now. There's not a whole lot of consistency on the team right now outside of the starting pitching, and not even Marcus Semien, like you said, crazy. But I really like Eovaldi and Lorenzen. The Rangers are only about 4 games back of Seattle right now, and reinforcements are on the way.
Yeah. Number 12 for me is going to be where I slot the Boston Red Sox, up 2 spots from our last rankings to number 12. 30-30. Just like the Tigers, they won 6-6 over the past 2 weeks. Their bats have been good with Wyatt Abreu and Rafael Devers. Each posted OPS is around 850. However, their starting rotation is starting to fizzle out a little bit. Bayo, Criswell, Crawford, and Pivetta have all not been good over the past 2 weeks. Tanner Houck, on the other hand, remains to be amazing. The Red Sox just kind of a misfits. I think you can kind of say that about their roster, where it's not like a ton of crazy high prospects. Obviously, Devers was, and Ceddanne Rafael is a pretty big prospect. And you look at the rotation, some of the guys in there, some of the guys playing every day for them, whether it's like Emmanuel Valdez or whoever it is, Tom Smith, Garrett Cooper, like they're finding a way to hang around in the AL wild card, I would say. So
Sure.
There are 2 spots. Number 11.
11's where I got the Twins. They're up 2 spots again from 13. Minnesota is really hot again. Winning series against Kansas City and Texas last week. I expect to keep seeing streakiness all season. However, they have the right approach, hitting for power, pitching for strikeouts. It's just a worse roster than we expected. It just maybe our expectations were too high for this team.
Yeah. I also have the Twins at 11. That's actually the same spot that I had them last week. I think they're kind of the last team in that cutoff area, so I think it's pretty reasonable for me to keep them in the same spot, even though they've been really good within the past few weeks. So 33-27 right now, 9-3 over those last 2 weeks. Like we mentioned, they've been good. Jose Miranda has been really good for them. 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 863 OPS. Their bullpen's been really good over the past 2 weeks, I believe. There's Griffin Jacks, Jorge Alcala, and Stephen Okert, who have all not allowed to run within that time and have each had over 5 appearances. Johan Duran's been good as well, too. Joe Ryan, Simeon Woods, Richardson have been really good within that time span as well, too. And they just got back somebody who's a huge impact player in Royce Lewis making his return to the lineup today. Great to see please stay healthy, Royce, because we just want to see you play baseball for, longer than a 15-game stretch. Stay healthy, please. Number 10.
Number 10, I have Milwaukee actually dropping down a spot from last week, the 9 spot. And it's not really because of their performance. A certain American League team has finally started streaking, and we'll get to them later, but they got jumped. So surprisingly, though, for Milwaukee, one of the best offenses in all of baseball this year. That includes a ridiculous 79 stolen bases. That's first. 115 WRC plus. That's the third best lineup in baseball, basically. And their problem is they strike out a lot. It's a very young team. It's put up their blind resume, and they're up there with anybody. I just can't really trust the names yet,
Yeah. Number 10 for me is going to be where I put the Padres, moving up 3 spots from our last rankings. The record doesn't really impress me, 32-31. Last 2 weeks, 7-8. But this team is good. Like, you look at the team on paper, I think you can be really impressed with it. Arias, Kim, Machado, Tatis, Profar, all OPS is over 800 over the past week, which is a sign for good things to come. Ever since Arias has got there, they've kind of woken up their offense a little bit. Michael King and Matt Waldron have been good, and they need to be good now because Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove are now hurt and on the 15-day disabled list. Not disabled, injured list. I can't say disabled anymore. Not exactly too sure how long those stints will be, but we know that they are willing to add people to fill those spots if needed, because that's what they've done this year, last year, the year before that, and so forth and so forth. So the Padres go up 3 spots to number 10. Number 9.
Number 9, I got the Royals down 2 spots from 7. I just don't really think this lineup can sustain what they're doing right now, so I bumped them down a few spots. But Bobby Witt and that rotation are going to try to carry the load for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah. The Royals are also my number 9 team, down 2 spots from my rankings as well, too. 36-25, 6-6 over the past 2 weeks. Like you said, Bobby Witt's been really good. 17 RBIs and an OPS over 1,000 over the past 2 weeks, that's not including, but he already has 2 homers today. He's doing really good against the Guardians right now, so I assume the OPS is a bit higher than just 1,000. Nelson Velasquez, another guy, starting to heat up. 5 homers for him over the past 2 weeks. And their 2 main guys, Reagans and Lugo, have both been great ERAs within the ones. I threw them down a little bit because that 6-6 record overall is not what you want from a team that you're going to have, in the top 9 rankings. Regardless, big series right now in Cleveland. Last time I checked, it was 5-3 in that game. However, it might have changed. So who knows?
Number 8, I got the Mariners up 3 spots from 11, and they are hot once again. Here it is. They won 3 out of 4 against Houston this time. The lineup's always going to be questionable, but they've made moves. And right now you have Castillo, Gilbert, Miller, Kirby, and Wu all trending upwards in that rotation. So I think you're going to keep gaining ground in the AL West as long as you don't give up that many runs, which they're not doing.
Yeah, Seattle is my number 8 team as well, too. They don't move any spots from my last rankings. They're at 34-27 now, 8-5 for the past 2 weeks. Ty France, the guy that they've been just waiting on to get going, has finally gotten going, a 979 OPS within these last 2 weeks. And like you said, the rotation, doesn't matter who they're giving the ball to. That guy's going to shove for them. Their bullpen's good as well, too. There's a reason why I picked this team to win this division, and it's showing why right now, because they're a tough team to beat every single night that you play them. It's not just like, 5-starter on the bump tonight, you're going to get 5 or 6 runs. No, that 5 starter is Brian Wu, who's got an ERA like in the 2s or something like that. It's rhyming accidentally. Boom. But number 8 for Seattle. Number 7.
I got the Padres up a spot. They're not really streaking anymore. They've lost 2 in a row now, but the only series loss in 2 weeks has been the Yankees, probably the hottest team in baseball. So it feels like they get a little better each day. They're trending upwards. Finally, they've been able to match the already top 10 rotation with the now nasty pen and this lineup that refuses to strike out. I think the only knock I've seen on them is horrific defense.
Yeah. Number 7 for me is the Milwaukee Brewers, who move up 2 spots from my last rankings where I had them at 9, 36-24. Part of a really good last 2 weeks, 9-4 within that span. Willy Adames is showing why he's going to get paid a ton of money this offseason. 340 average and an OPS over 1,000 by 1 point. That is 1,001 is his OPS. So pretty good there. And they're just doing the same thing that they've done the entire year, where it's just like, not random guys, but the entire lineup just is solid. Yelich, Perkins, Ortiz have all had good weeks. Freddie Peralta has been good after his kind of skid in May. Only bad news is Robert Gasser, who's been good for him in his first 5 starts in the MLB, is now hurt and has some elbow soreness, I want to say, or it's forearm or something, which is not a good sign there. But that's always been a team that has no problem finding arms, and I assume that they'll be just okay without him for whatever stretch it is. Number 6.
Yeah, the Braves are going to stay put here at 6 for me. There's so many problems in Atlanta right now, but winning games doesn't seem to be one yet. So I'm not going to panic, even though Acuna is out for the year, like we all know. I have no doubt it's still going to be an elite level wildcard team in October. Fried, Sale, and Lopez have been nuts on the mound. All of the plus metrics, the OPS, the ERA plus, the WRC plus, you name it, all of them are above 100. That means they're in the top 10 or 5 in every category in baseball. So 6 spot seems pretty good for I guess you could call them a slightly struggling team.
Yeah, and I think that kind of segues to something I wanted to talk about, or I did talk about 2 weeks ago, and I think still remains the same here. We have a pretty confirmed top 6, I would say, even though it's not record-wise. I know the Brewers are a bit better than the Braves right now, as well as the Royals as far as record goes, but I still think the top 6 is the top 6, whether it's the Braves, and the rest of the teams that we'll talk about within past that. But I also have the Braves at the number 6 spots, 33-24. The big thing here is just Acuna. He's gone since our last rankings, and it didn't affect where I put them, because I don't want to move them down quite yet, because I still have a ton of trust within them. With that being said, they are 6-7 over the past 2 weeks. They haven't been good since Acuna's gotten hurt. And something we talked about last week is how this is going to impact them. And the 3 names that I focused on were Olsen, Albies, and Riley. So checking up on them in their past 2 weeks, Olsen an 858 OPS, Albies a 685, and Austin Riley only at a 457 since he's returned from the injured list. Another guy that they just got back, Sean Murphy, hasn't gotten going yet, but you've got to get those guys to get going in order for this Atlanta Braves lineup to go any higher than 6 within this next 4-month span or something like that. One thing that has been good for them is continuous in their starting rotation, except for Chris Sale on Saturday. Yes. Max Fried especially, really good, though. 0.53 ERA in his last 17 innings pitched, which spans over 3 starts, I want to say. So Max Fried is stepping up into that ace role that they needed when Spencer Strider went down. Number 5.
Number 5, Guardians here. Also staying put at the 5 spot. They're above average at every single spot right now. They've earned the number 5, I think, over Atlanta. J. Ram's playing at an MVP level here. You always need a guy like that to pair with the great on-base percentage guys. And, of course, the defense and bullpen, that's why they're up here. They are the best of the best.
Yeah, the Guardians stay at that number 5 spot for me as well, too, not moving up or down from our last rankings. They're 39-20, 8-3 over the last 11 over the last 2 weeks. And like you said, J-Ram is becoming J-Ram again. He had a really slow start to the year, or uncharacteristically start for him, where he just wasn't hitting all the time. Like, he had some spans, and you just expect, J-Ram to be the super consistent ultimate player. But he's been that over the past, 2 weeks to a month now. 5 homers, 16 RBIs, and an OPS near 1,300 in that time span. Like you said, pitching defense is something they've always got down. Tanner Bybee, Blake Lively, or Ben Lively. Blake Lively's the singer, so
yes,
probably not her. They both have sub-3 ERAs just over this past 2 weeks. And the Guardians just feel very Guardian-y right now, where it's they play small ball. They're starting to hit home runs at big moments. They have a good bullpen. They play good defense. And it's a recipe to win baseball games, man, especially in the regular season. They're doing that right now with the best record in the Central. Number 4.
Number 4, it is the Orioles that take the hit this week. They drop one spot. Norby is the most recent prospect to get the call for him. I know you have high hopes for him. It's another team without a lot of problems right now. The pitching staff was surprisingly elite for me when I looked at numbers like WAR instead of ERA and strikeouts and stuff like that. And you can always trust WAR, but the home runs in Baltimore, that's the big difference. 88. That only trails the Yankees.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Number 4 for me, kind of a shocker here, is going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers, moving down 3 spots from number 1 in my last rankings. They're still 38-23, so it's not a bad record, but they're 5-6 in the past 2 weeks. And Ohtani and Mookie Betts both had OPSs under 700 in that time span, so they're in a bit of a cold stretch right now, and I think that is enough to put them down a few spots in comparison to some of these other teams that have not lit up over the past 2 weeks. Number 3,
I got the Phils down 1 spot from last week. It's currently tied for the best record in baseball still with my next team. And this whole lineup is hot right now, not just Alec Boehm anymore. So it's increasingly scary every week. And of course, the pitching staff is unbelievable. They lead baseball in ERA, FIP, WAR, and ground ball percentage. Just nuts. Interested to see, though, what happens after they play the Mets in London. Will that wreck their momentum or not?
Yeah, it's something that could throw you off. My number 3 team is not moved from my last ranking. It's the Baltimore Orioles. They're sitting at 38-20. Great record, 9-4 over the past 2 weeks. Mountcastle, Santander, Gunnar Henderson, they're all hitting right now. OPS is over 900. Biggest one out of those 3, I would say, is Santander, because he got off to a slow start, and now that he's heating up, just another guy you got to worry about in that lineup. And then their rotation, man, whether it's Corbin Burns, Cole Irvin, Grayson Rodriguez, or Kyle Bradish, they're all solid for them. And they don't even have to be that good because their offense is amazing. And Baltimore Orioles are playing this rebuild exactly the way that they want it to be, where they just have too many prospects. And that's a good thing. Number 4.
It is going to be the Yankees. Only up 2 spots, sticking at number 2, but wow, they are on fire right now. I know Baltimore's been okay head-to-head, but the Yankees have surpassed Baltimore in a lot of things here. I wrote them out just in case you didn't have them. Homers, walks, defense, WAR, ERA, WRC+. They're number 1 in most of them in baseball. Just a ridiculous 2 weeks for the Yanks.
Yeah, my number 2 team is not moved. It's the Philadelphia Phillies at 42-19. 8-5 over the past 2 weeks is pretty on par. They've had a decently tough schedule considering what it was in the first few months of the season. Bryce Harper has been good. And one of the reasons why they've been so good in this time span is without Trey Turner, Edmundo Sosa has been a all-star level player for them over the past 2 weeks. 3 homers, 8 RBIs, and OPS of right at 1,000. And the rotation continues to be ridiculous, whether it's led by Ranger Suarez. I say it's led by Zach Wheeler, and I think that's what most people say. He's been great on 1.35 ERA in 20 innings pitched over the past 2 weeks. And now number 1.
Yeah, I get the Dodgers. I've learned my lesson, even though it was not a great 2-week stretch and it was not as good as the Yankees were. But I still don't think it's enough to drop them. It's still the best combination of power, contact, and ERA in baseball right now. And I think this is one of those situations where it just takes a little streak and they're back at the top. So I'm going to keep them for now.
Yeah, I don't think I would have moved down the Dodgers if it wasn't for this one team. And the team that I have in number 1 was at number 4 in my last rankings. It's the New York Yankees. 42-19, 9-3 over their last 12. Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig have been really good. Oh, wait. That's not Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig? Oh, that's Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, who have just been absolutely ridiculous over the last 2 weeks. For Judge, 8 homers, 15 RBIs. Soto, 6 homers and 16 RBIs. I forgot what the stat was. 2 players on the same team over 190 OPS plus within the season, or was WRC plus, whatever it is. One of the plus stats.
Yeah.
And the last teammates to do it were Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. They did it twice. Some other people in the 20s did it a couple times as well too. But Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are there right now. And seeing how good they've been and how impossible they are to get out is just ridiculous, man. It's so crazy to think about, and it seems sustainable because most of these guys have had stretches like this in their career. And they're only going to get better, too, because Gleyber Torres, one of the guys who's been shit in the first part of the season, starting to get going. And I believe like an 800 OPS of this past couple of weeks. He already hit a homer today. And their pitching is ridiculously good. Louis Eel, 0.63 ERA in 14 innings pitched over the last 2 weeks. He hasn't given up a run today in 5 innings. He won Pitcher of the Month. Marcus Stroman, who is their 4th starter, has been really, really good. Whether you're giving the ball to Cortez, whether you're giving the ball to Clark Schmidt, who's now on the IL, whether you're giving the ball to Rodon, Eel, Stroman, whoever it is, they've been great. Oh, yeah. And they have Garrett Cole coming back in a couple of weeks. So that's going to just supplement that rotation even more. The back of the bullpen, their whole bullpen is ridiculously good. As much as I said, the Dodgers are the most complete and most, perfect team in baseball. The Yankees are rivaling that right now with just the superstardom of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto just being on another level of superstardom right now. It's ridiculous. These are the best 2 players in baseball this season.
Well said.
Moving on, our top 15 power rankings. Always fun to do. Always fun to get a little animated when you're speaking. We're doing our super regional picks for college baseball. There's 8 different super regionals. We'll go through all of them right now. The first of which is UGA with Charlie Condon and NC State. Skyler, who do you pick here?
Yeah, this was really a toss-up for me. They're both ranked in the top 10. It was tough, but every time I look at Georgia's box score, other than I think one game the entire year, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all hitting 4 for 5, and they put up 10 runs in the first couple innings. So I got to stick with Georgia for this round, man.
Yeah, one thing I did forget to mention, this is at UGA, so in Athens for that. Yeah, I pick Georgia. They got one of the best hitters in the country in Charlie Condon, and he's got like 35 or 36 homers on the year. It's impossible to get him out. We thought Aaron Judge was doing good in the MLB. Just look at how this guy's doing in college baseball. Obviously 2 different scenarios, but still give him a shout out. I got UGA in that one. Next up is the College Station Regional, Texas A&M and Oregon. Number 3, Texas A&M.
Yeah, another one that should be pretty quick. Texas A&M is one of the better programs we've seen this year. Oregon has not been playing well down the stretch. I have to take Texas A&M. Benny Montgomery, a guy we've mentioned as an underslot pick, has been just ripping the cover off the ball.
Yeah, I take A&M and Braden Montgomery. I watched this guy at Stanford for a couple of years and how good he was. He is got that superstar level potential where he can, kind of just do everything. And he's got a ton of power, and he's shown that in A&M this year. And I think it's going to be enough for them to take down the Ducks. Maybe it's my bias talking. I don't know. Because I do want to see the Ducks lose considering they beat us. But I'm thinking A&M in this one. Next up is the Chapel Hill Regional, UNC versus West Virginia. UNC played a thriller of a game last night against LSU to get that regional dub. Now we get to see Weatherholt versus Honeycats. Skyler, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Mountaineers in this one, actually. West Virginia. I didn't like how UNC really struggled against Wofford. LSU's okay. It happens, but they lost to Wofford, man. And West Virginia took care of business in Tucson. All these teams are way more West Coast. Arizona, Dallas Baptist, Grand Canyon. And those guys blew it. West Virginia keep the mystery season alive, I guess. JJ Weatherholt back from injury. I know they weren't very happy with the SB fans hosting, but hey, they're moving on.
Yeah, for sure. I am also going with West Virginia in this one. I didn't like how close it was for UNC. I know Honeycutt, best player on UNC, has been really good. He had a homer a couple days ago and has really, I guess, cemented his draft stock, is the way to put it, where he was top pick, kind of had that like little down spot because he's not, the biggest guy in the world, but I think he showed his power. It's still going to be good with him not even being 6 feet tall. Regardless, I take West Virginia in this one to move on to Omaha. Next one, we have the Charlottesville Regional. It is UVA versus K-State. Skyler, who do you go with here?
This one should be a really good matchup. Both programs have been in this tournament before. K-State beat Hagen Smith of Arkansas, known as the second or third best pitcher in the nation, but I'm still going to go with Virginia. I feel like at the end of the day, if you're not sure, you got to stick with the Southern Belt when it comes to college baseball. You can't replace that atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm going with UVA as well here too. I think they took care of business in their regional, and so did K State. But I think how UVA played, it kind of showed that they're not here to mess around. I'm taking them to take this one. Next up, we have Clemson in their regional going up, or super regional going up against Florida and Jack Caglione. The 28 and 27 Florida Gators got into this tournament, and they've been on fire ever since. Skyler, who do you have here?
I was really happy Florida won. I actually picked them to win the Stillwater regional, which, probably crazy. Probably shouldn't have done that, but hey, they did it. Caglione was good enough, and they definitely play above the record. It's just not going to happen at Clemson. Another thing here, until you get to Omaha, it's the home team is so important. College baseball, the atmosphere, and again, we'll get to who I think is the top atmosphere available soon here, but Clemson is definitely up there too.
I am going in a different direction. I'm going with Florida here. With it being a 3-game series, you have Cags on the mound for one of them, and he's going to hit in all three, of course. I think you got to keep the Cinderella season alive for Florida. They were the runner-up in college baseball last year. Obviously, they lost Wyatt Langford and a couple other guys since then, but this is probably going to be the most watched, or one of the most watched series that is. It is on ESPN, not you, just the ESPN. For both of the games and probably game 3 as well too. They just haven't announced that yet because that's obviously not guaranteed yet. But I'm taking Florida to go to Omaha for back-to-back years. Next up, the Knoxville Regional, number 1 Tennessee versus Evansville. How about that, Skyler? Who do you go with here?
I'm sticking with Tennessee. It's another one of those situations where you really want to root for the underdog, but there's really no chance. I mean, shit, for a private liberal arts school that's the size of the school my brother goes to, to beat ECU and Wake Forest and VCU is nutty. But I'm sorry, I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy regional that Evansville won either, so I think it is reasonable to shout them out. But against the number 1 team in the country, that's going to be really, really tough, man. So I'm going with Knoxville, or I guess UT Knoxville's the full name, but Tennessee to win it as next one. University of Kentucky versus Oregon State. This is a fun one at the Lexington Regionals.
Yeah.
Or the Super Regional, my bad. I keep on saying that.
Yeah, the Super. But probably what I would say is the biggest bold prediction of the tournament so far. I'm going to take Oregon State to win at number 2 Kentucky. You just have to be there sometimes. There's a reason why these teams keep showing up in Omaha every season. It's because they're really well coached. They have a 1 through 9 that you can trust to get on base, and I don't remember Kentucky being here. I know it's really bold to go against an SEC team this late in the tournament, but I don't trust them yet. Sorry.
Yeah, this series is interesting because you have the number 2 team, and then you also have Oregon State, who's led by, in my opinion, my favorite player. I guess it's not an opinion-based thing. I can say it is. He's my favorite player in the country, Travis Pisana. Yeah. I would absolutely do some crazy things for him to be the number 4 pick to the A's. However, I don't think he gets that far. I think that villain attitude that they're going to carry into Kentucky this weekend is going to be really fun to watch. They're doing it for the Pac-12. It's not just for themselves. And Travis Bazzana is not doing it for America. He's doing it for Down Under in Australia. He's been so fun to watch, and I think they get it done in Kentucky to move on to the College Baseball World Series that Oregon State consistently find themselves in, ironically.
Yeah.
Last one that we have at Mike Martin Field at Dick Hauser Stadium, the Tallahassee Super Regional, Florida State versus UConn. Scott, who do you got here?
Shout out to UConn for winning it in Norman. That was really unexpected. I mean, just if you don't understand, I know you do, but if anyone's listening, Northeast baseball is not that intense compared to the South at all. And for UConn to take care of this tournament is ridiculous. However, that crazy field name that you just said is one of the hardest places in the nation to play. At one point, they had won 28 straight home games this season, something crazy like that. And I don't think they're going to win in Tallahassee. I'm sorry, UConn.
Something they're just meant to be. I'm picking UConn in this one. You got to pick some crazy upsets because that's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
In these, there's always something crazy that we've never seen before in these games. And I think UConn's going to get it done and send their way to the College World Series. That ends the Super Regional talk. We'll move on to our NBA Finals preview. It's the Mavericks and the Celtics together. Game 1 is on Thursday night at 5:30. Dallas is plus 205 in that one. In total, Celtics are definitely a favorite in the series. How do you think the Finals plays out?
Yeah, I'm going to take Boston in 5 games, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the games won't be entertaining. I just really like Boston. It seems like it was meant to be as soon as Denver got knocked out. You know, you're always going to have opportunities on offense when you can trade off possessions with 2 guards as good as Luka and Kyrie, but I just really like the matchup for Boston. Can Dallas effectively run the big man lineup, Gafford, Lively, PJ Washington, when they have to slow down a guy like Tatum or Porzingis on the perimeter? I don't know. They've never done it before. Josh Green and Jaden Hardy. I got one more thing.
Very good.
They've been playing significantly more minutes at guard than the entire playoffs than Hardaway and Exum. So who in the world is going to guard and who should guard Jaylen Brown? He should be the MVP again, unless Tatum has a couple 40 burgers, but that's the difference to me. They have no one to guard the shooting guard position, and Jaylen Brown's going to go nuts in this finals.
Yeah, this is an interesting series because there's some cool storylines. It's the first finals for Luka. It's the return to Boston for Kyrie Irving. And then it's the attempt to get their first finals victory for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, as well as all the other dudes on that team for the Celtics. I picked the Thunder when the Mavericks went against them. I picked the Timberwolves when the Mavericks went against them.
Yep.
So it makes me be wary about a Celtics pick because maybe I'm seeing something or I'm not seeing something that's going on. However, I am going to say Celtics in 6. I think there's going to be some moments in the series where we say, oh, shit, we might be wrong. Like Luka and the Mavericks win game 1, or they, take game 2 in good fashion and they win game 3 and they take a series lead. And then Boston just kind of takes over the series and they say, all right, you had fun, but we're going to show you why we're the best team in the NBA. And that's just because of the depth and the nonstop pressure that they'll have on defense, offense, whatever it is. They're just so good at everything that it makes it really tough to have mistakes in the game, which the Mavericks do. Like there's some flaws within that team that the Celtics have been able to expose. So I think there's going to be some moments in the series, like I said, where Luka, Kyrie, whoever takes over for the Mavericks, maybe throws the Celtics in 6 pick on our back for a second, and then game 5, game 6, go the C's way easily, and they take the series from there on out. So I'm picking MVP Jason Tatum. I like the Jaylen Brown pick, and I think there's how the series plays out. They could go that way. I want to take Tatum, and I'm going to take Tatum here. So NBA Finals winner.
Yeah.
The Celtics for me and Skyler, and then different MVP picks, but we both know who it's going to be if the Celtics win. It's going to be one of the two. You know? Unless Derek White scores 40. Or Drew Holiday, who knows?
I feel like him and Kyrie are just going to cancel each other out. But you never know.
Might be disrespectful.
That's kind of why I took the 5 game instead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. Guy's done some crazy things. I think also with him too, his the vibe around him has changed quite a bit over the past few years too, and he's put himself back on the map for sure.
Well, all right. Let's head to halftime here. Not a whole lot. The main stuff was the real important stuff that we already got to. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention in the basketball world. The NBA draft, a couple weeks away. Starts on June 26th. That's a Wednesday, but it will be a 2-day event. Kyle just reminded me of this. I forgot or had no idea or don't watch the second round. I don't know. You take your pick there, but just excited to see a weird combination of players get taken. Of course, guys from France, guys from the G League, guys from Kentucky. They're all at different points in their development right now, and they're all in the same draft, and we don't really see this very often. So it's going to be really weird. And the last thing I wanted to mention, JJ Redick. Not a Woj or a Shams note here, but all the rumors say JJ Redick's there in LA, ready to be the head coach. He's being zeroed in on. He's the guy, and it's going to happen soon. And I don't like it. I don't like it. Not that I don't trust him as a coach. I just think this is the wrong place to start it off because we all know at the end of the day, LeBron James is the head coach of this team as long as he's there. Maybe they are trying to get ready for the future. That's why JJ Redick is the guy. But I think it's going to be really awkward, especially he's known as a media guy now more than his days as the straight killer at Duke. It'll be a weird dynamic for sure if this happens.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of persona for it as well, too, because JJ Redick's changed his kind of public view a lot within his career, where at Duke he was like the most hated man that played basketball because he was the white good guard on Duke and wasn't like overly athletic or anything like that, and just splashed threes and made a ton of shots. And then I think in the NBA he kind of changed that around, and a lot of people like JJ Redick, and I think now especially too there's a very positive notion around JJ Redick, and I think a lot of people now growing up too, like they don't know JJ Redick was like that, when he was younger. So it's a pretty interesting thing there. Royce Lewis just homered, by the way. Good for that. He has not gotten out this season, which is pretty cool. Regardless, you got to be a killer again if you're JJ Redick for the Lakers coach, because if you're not a killer, then you get fed to the wolves, because regardless of how good the team is, if you lose, it's going to be blamed on you. And that's
going to bring Doc in.
Yeah, they're going to bring whoever in. They're going to bring in the Doc clone from the FX show that's about to come out on Hulu, Clipped, about Donald Sterling. If you have not seen the guy who plays Doc Rivers in that, look it up. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah. He just does not look like him at all. Regardless, I like JJ Redick a lot as a person. I don't want him to get this job because I selfishly want to listen to his podcast still. I think he offers a ton of really interesting insight, and he's fun to listen to if you're trying to learn more about the game. But this move does feel like a plea to LeBron again from the Lakers to try to get him to come back because he's a free agent. This is the guy you do podcasts with. Wouldn't that be cool for him to be your coach or to co-coach, kind of like how things have gone with the Lakers over the past however many years, and LeBron in general when he was in Cleveland and Miami and back in Cleveland again.
You just can't let these guys walk all over you, or it's never going to work. That's the big thing with JJ.
Cool. It'll be interesting to see how they look at him as a peer or not, because there is a lot of guys that JJ played with in that group. He not played with, but he played against LeBron, played against Anthony Davis. Actually, he might have been teammates with AD in New Orleans for a year. D'Lo was in the league, of course. There's been some other guys as well too. It's just interesting to see his level of respect that gets demanded. And as a coach in LA, you got to get that respect. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, moving on to our Layups Bowl predictions. Layups this past week were good to me and Skyler. I got mine right with Sean Strickland minus 250. He got a UFC dub this past weekend. Not Sugar Sean, but
no, that's O'Malley. Yeah, never mind.
Skyler had Cleveland over Washington on Friday. That did happen. Cleveland stays hot. Washington stays cold. This week I have Houston over St. Louis on Wednesday. It is a Miles Mikolas start versus Ronel Blanco. Blanco's been good. Miles Mikolas has not been good. And pitching in Houston does not seem like a good recipe for Miles Mikolas. So I'm going with Houston on Wednesday.
Also going with some baseball again. I try to not do that minus 290 White Sox loss thing. So a divisional game here, Baltimore over Tampa Bay on Friday night. Seems like it's going to be a little better odds. We got Cole Irvin, who's been fantastic on the bump against Aaron Savalier, Tampa Bay. New guy, hasn't really found it yet. I like Baltimore. They hit a lot of homers. Tampa doesn't.
Yeah. My bold prediction last week was Dustin Poirier at plus 435. Ended up being a terrible bet, even though Poirier lost. He got submitted within the 5th round, but it seemed like it was a pretty solid fight from what I've seen. Skeller had Houston over Minnesota on Friday. That was a Blanco start. Did not work there. So 0 for 2 for us in the bold predictions. Hopefully the Blanco start goes better for me this time. My bold prediction, I just went with the Celtics in 6. I think making that exact prediction is bold enough to be warranted as a bold prediction.
Yeah, I'll add season 5 to mine, but I also wanted to get some baseball. I just like on Tuesdays before we do it, just looking through the week series, be like, oh yeah, that's when I'm going to start for sure. And one of those series is Seattle at Kansas City. Specifically Friday night, we got Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle, who it seems like every time I turn on a Seattle game and Bryce Miller's pitching, he's 6 or 7 10Ks. He's up against Alec Marsh, who has been great, but not someone you can rely on every day. Perfect for a struggling Seattle lineup.
That's going to do it, though, for episode 195. We're only 5 episodes away from the big 200, which will be happening this summer.
Yeah.
Pretty cool there. Should be the beginning of next month, maybe, I want to say.
Maybe the Aura draft.
It could be MLB All-Stars around that time as well, too. Regardless, we're looking forward to episode 196 and every other episode that we have in the future. We'll see you guys then. Any parting message from me,
Omaha predictions next week.
Let's get it. And we'll go from there.
All right, let's go Texas. Win the Natty for softball.